What is up, YouTube? Bitch boy Millsy, back with the Hometown Commander, back for another sort of $50 upgrade show where I upgrade the Precon in front of you and my quest to upgrade every new Precon that comes out and give you my thoughts on what to change. Today we're talking about the Tricky Terrain Precon for Modern Horizons 3, headed up by Omo, Queen of Vesuva. In this episode, I'm going to give you my suggestions for the $50 worth of cards you should add to the deck, as well as my list of the cards I've taken out for the purposes of this video. My hope is that you'll use this just to make the decisions about your deck, what you add, gather either ideas or research towards what you want to do. But Omo, Queen of Vesuva is a 3-mana Simic Shapeshifter Noble that whenever DTBs or attacks, you put an everything counter on each up to 1 target land and 1 target creature. Every land with an everything counter on it has every land type. Every non-land creature with an everything counter on it has every creature type. So there's a lot of ways you can take this, whether you want to focus on the land side of it, the creature side of it, a particular land type, what have you. For my upgrades, what I chose to do was focus on gates. There's a bunch of gates in our colors, as well as Maze's End, so there's a lot of ways to go towards our gate strategy, as well as a few creatures that care about specific creature types, since we can get all of our creatures in to that type. So let's start with the upgrades. Even Courier is a card that seems well built for this deck. Whenever it attacks, we choose a counter on a permanent you control, put a counter of that kind on target permanent you control. If it doesn't have a counter of that kind, we put an everything counter on something of our choice, and we can start spreading these around even quicker. Baldur's Gate, starting us down this gates train, adding, kind of a Cabal Coffer step effect for the amount of gates, other gates that we have. The point is we're trying to get to 10 with Maze's End. We'll cover Maze's End when we get there. Baru Worm Speaker is going to give all worms +2/+2 and trample. Of course, with everything counters on them, all of our creatures are going to be worms. This is a great ability. And then we can tap it to make a worm, and that's going to get cheaper for the greatest power among worms we control, which hopefully we can get it down to just 2 or 3 mana to make those 4/4 worms. Bonnie Paul seems like a great choice to come in here. When it comes in, we make Bo a legendary blue Ox creature token with power and toughness equal to the number of lands we control. Whenever we attack, draw a card, then put a land from our hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. Bonnie Paul doesn't necessarily do anything with the gates. I just think it's a really cool Simic Lands card in its own right, and I think Omo has the ability to play a lot of these Simic Lands commanders in its 99 and really take advantage of them being there. Circuitous Route can get 2 gates or any basic land to put on the battlefield tap. This is great since we're trying to get to that 10 gates number to win with Maze's End. Crop Rotation can sack a land to go get any land of our choice and put it on the battlefield. Great to go get Maze's End or a couple other key lands that we have in the deck to get mana and get things ramped and going forward. Deeper Pilgrimage says whenever one or more non-token merfolk you control become tapped, put a 1/1 merfolk token with hexproof into play. This is great because with every creature that has an everything counter on it becomes a merfolk, and anytime they attack or tap for any other ability, we get 1/1 merfolks to go wide. Doppelgang is such a fun copy spell because I can copy any target permanents and we can make copies of them. It's probably going to be used the most to copy our own gates if we have a Maze's End out for that strategy, but it could just be used to make a copy of a bunch of random things or something like multiples of 1 or 2 key things we really care about, and it can also copy our opponent's things. Doppelgang is just a fun spell, and I think in the right situations it has a really high ceiling. Endless Evil, we enchant a creature we control. Being our upkeep, we trade a copy of it, except it's a 1/1. And when the enchanted creature dies, if that creature was a horror, we get this back to our hand. Again, with the everything counter, if we get it on the creature this is enchanted, or this is attached to, it will always come back because that creature will be a horror as long as Omo's out. But if we can get this on the right non-legendary thing, we can get a bunch of copies of it. And I think there's so many great creatures that we can attach that Endless Evil to. Well, a few of the creature types that I thought were relevant, and one that I wanted to play into a little bit was Slivers, mainly because the blue Slivers care all about giving all of our Slivers evasion. The green ones have other good abilities. So Gale Rider Sliver gives all Slivers we control flying, remember that every creature within everything counter on it is going to be a Sliver, meaning our entire board would get flying. Gateway Plaza and Gone Gate, just 2 more gates to add to the deck to make sure we get that gate count up and get it moving. Same thing with Heap Gate there in the middle. But the 2 on either side are going to continue to play into this, lots of tribal thing. Hackball with all of our creatures with everything counters on them being merfolk is going to allow us to explore and get some lands from our hand on the battlefield when Hackball attacks if we want to. And then Herald of Hoofbeats is going to have all of our Knights horsemanship. So again, just taking advantage of those everything counters and getting all of our creatures with bonuses. Jol Rael is a card that seems really fun in a deck like this. Being a combat on your turn, up to one target land you control becomes an XX green and blue bird with flying and haste, where X is the number of cards in your hand, it's still land, and whenever a land you control deals damage to a player, draw a card. Just a way to animate our lands, start hurting our opponents, and not just focusing on the one or two other game plans we want to do. Just kind of spreading the love, playing the field, making sure we always have a horse in the race, and we're always kind of making sure that we have a way to interact with our opponents. Kumana, same thing as Hackball, taking advantage of all of our creatures being merfolk to get some draw and some counters. A lot of great ways we can use that. Mana Weft Sliver is going to make all of our slivers be able to tap for a mana of any color, which is going to be really helpful, again, when all of our creatures are slivers. Manor Gate, another gate, but Maze's End in the middle is the primary one we're looking for here. It enters battlefield tapped, taps for a color, but for 3 colors to tap it, return it to our hand. We search our library for a gate card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. If you control 10 or more gates with different names, you win a game. So it does rely on us getting to 10 gates, and there are less than 10 gates in the deck, but what you have to remember is that every land you put an everything counter on becomes a gate, and they're going to have different names. So Maze's End will be a very easy thing to get to. Notorious Throng feels like a great spell, making X 1/1 Fairy Rogue creature tokens with flying, where X is the damage dealt to your opponents this turn, and if the spell's prowl cost is paid, you take an extra turn, and you can cast it for its prowl cost if a rogue dealt damage to a player. Well, and being every type means that we can probably get a rogue in for some damage and take an extra turn at the right time. Seagate to get up our gate count. Shifting Sliver to give all of our slivers the ability to only be blocked except by slivers, meaning that it should be unblockable in most games. Spawning Kraken will allow all of our creatures to make a 9/9 Kraken creature token when they hit, which is going to be really beneficial to go wide and be able to protect ourselves after we're attacking. Synapse Sliver lets us draw whenever our slivers hit a player. Tempered Sliver gives them a counter whenever our slivers hit a player. So again, just great abilities for our entire board. Temp with Discovery is almost always going to be a one-sided benefit for us because, yes, our opponents can get a land, but we're going to go get a land that could potentially get us even closer to those 10 lands before our opponents can and push us towards a win. There's probably a lot of games where you temp with Discovery turn 3 or 4, get your Maze of Ith is the land or your Maze's End is the land you really want. But if somebody else takes one, you just go get a couple more gates, and you're just setting yourself forward towards your plan of winning that way. So those were my, I think it was north of 20 cards I could add for $50 to the deck. This is the list of the cards that I decided to cut for this version of the listing, and if you want to look at the list I put together for this, it's going to be down in the description below. I'm not saying that these are the 20 so cards that I think are the worst. These are just the 20 so cards so I cut to make this gate strategy work and to make the things I wanted to make work. I think there's a lot of great cards in this section. I just needed to kind of mess around with the numbers and remove some things to make the gates and the other things work. But I think some of these cards, of course, are very good if you want to bring them back in. But let me know, what do you think of my upgrades for Omo? I'd love to hear what you think down in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys next time.